My name is Josh Ortega, and I'm here talking with Chris Holmberg about the ESA Connections. It's a business that he runs that connects vendors and parents in a social media type platform, would you say?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
What is so much of the conversation around ESAs is very divisive with unaccountability. What does ESA Connections do to really bring some of that accountability back?
Yeah, no, great question. So we started the company in November of 2022. It's an Arizona LLC. It's actually Educational Services Alliance, LLC. And then if you shorten that, ESA is our acronym. And we did that on purpose. We were thoughtful. We knew we wanted to do a website that connects parents and vendors, and then it actually connects both of them to the educational resources they need. For parents, it connects them to what their learners need. And for vendors, especially maybe teachers that they've decided to leave the public education field, or it could be under the new ESA program, all you need is a high school diploma or a certification in your field. It could be somebody that doesn't have a teaching background, but has something to offer kids, like they want to teach life skills. And it enables them to set up and start their educational business in less than 2 hours. They pay $85 to the state for an LLC. They get their website, they get a profile, which puts them into our database. Because on the other end of that, the parents are inputting what they need for their learner. And then that matches to what is on those profiles. And so parents can now very quickly and easily get a short list of educators and resources that they need and it could be therapists, it could be curriculum. That doesn't exist, or it didn't exist until we rolled our website out on October 1st. In the past, somebody that wanted to homeschool, they've got to go to a lot of different homeschool Facebook groups, parent groups. You got to ask to, request to get in. If they do share great ideas, the problem is you can't find those great ideas because just over time they sink to the bottom. And so we wanted to provide a community, an online community. We built it. We're basically giving it over to the parents and teachers and vendors and therapists, these educational service providers, to take it and run with it. So everything can be rated and reviewed. So parents can find vendors that they need. They can rate and review those vendors so that new parents that come in can look and see those ratings and have the confidence they need to engage in the process of privately educating their learners. The other thing that it does is it enables those vendors to get their business set up, but it enables them very affordably and quickly to reach a market of parents that are interested in their services. And if they want to advertise, they can do that for as low as $20 a month. So the subscription for vendors is only $24.95. And if they want to sign an annual subscription agreement, then it's less than $20 a month. So for $85, less than $20 a month. And if they want to advertise, say less or around $40 a month, they can set up their business and go. And that was real important to us because Arizona, our legislature, was very thoughtful in how they set up the business. And this is going to get to your question about accountability. Florida has a very robust program, but when they set up their requirements for people to establish a teaching business, they have a lot more requirements. It's harder to set up a teaching business in the state of Florida. They have about 180,000 kids in their ESA program. They have about 400,000 kids that are being privately educated through various. They have about 5 different ways to do that, versus we have about 70,000 here today in Arizona. But what's different is I think our legislature got it. Their thought was, hey, who is going to be more responsible? Parents, or maybe a bureaucrat or somebody that's not related to the learner. So they said, look, we're going to set this thing up so that people can start their educational businesses pretty easily, and we'll let the free market and let parents decide. Our website makes that even easier because when that vendor completes their profile, they put in their credentials, they put in their history, their background, their education, what they teach, any special needs that they serve, and then they can upload their credentials. They can just take a picture of their credentials, their fingerprint card, their teaching certificate, their various license. I mean, there's an infinite amount of license. And so that is up for parents to evaluate and look at. And then the parent can contact a short list of those vendors and then go meet with the ones that they're interested in. And I'm here to tell you that if you've not been around any of these homeschooling parents, whether they have special needs kids or not, they are very much up to speed on what's going on. They're very much involved in their kids' education and they care. And in the past, if they were going to homeschool, they had to pay taxes, but they didn't get any money from the state. Now they can get somewhere between $7,000, and if their learner has special needs, it could be as much as $43,000. And those things are for technologies and equipment that a special needs therapies that a special needs learner might need. But the average student can get around $7,000. And what we found is parents are very wise and very frugal with that money. They want to get the most education for their learner as possible. And I think, like, if you have a whole bunch of micro schools and learning pods that can be established very quickly, because the state of Arizona made it very easy for folks like that to get in business, we provide a system and process where now we basically, it's kind of like, think like Wall Street. We just put a marketplace together where they can very efficiently meet and connect. When that parent goes to that educator and the house doesn't look safe, they maybe don't act like or talk well enough to know that to give that parent's confidence to educate their child, that parent can just take their money, because with an ESA, the money truly follows the learner. They can just go down to the next micro school. So this network of micro schools is in the process of being established. It's very new. But I think what SOS and a lot of folks that don't support the school choice movement and options for learners, they basically are invested in things the way they are. What they're doing is really it's not right. I mean, they're not telling the truth. So, for example, they've hired people, as I understand, to infiltrate some of these parent homeschool groups. And so it's hard to, you have to, show that you're an ESA, in the ESA program. Like, you have to prove that. And then what they'll do is, once they're in, they'll take screenshots of things and then they'll post those with, and sometimes they'll actually change one. So I just saw a post last night that my wife showed me on a Facebook group, and a lot of them are now inputting things like SOS sucks, or they're lying to you. They'll put that on their post so that if SOS grabs their post, there's at least something on there that's negative about it. So the market's going to respond and react, and truth wins in the end. But one of the things that they said is there's a thing going around now, and there was a SOS brought up a $559 Lego set, and what they showed in that Lego set was like a very expensive Star Wars, Lego set. What my understanding is the original post had a different Lego set, and you can find, like we do brick camps, like we know all about Legos, and there are STEM kits that my wife has that are $140, but we can do 40 different science type projects with those, and the kids get to build, they get to learn, they get to make a hypothesis, they get to prove that, it's phenomenal. But with that $139, we can do 40 different lessons. Well, the more expensive kits are almost $500. They're the robotics kits, where kids can learn how to code, they can put things together, they can really do some hands-on type science and STEM projects. Well, those kits are like $500, and the insinuation was made that SOS took that post, put a picture of, like a Star Wars Lego, and made it look like parents in the program are spending $500 on these, Star Wars Lego kits, which I just don't think it's happening. Another Channel 15 just did a expose, if you will, where they went through and they were audited all of the ESA expenditures or whatever. They audited a bunch of them, and they found some ones that they thought were questionable. So there was a $4,000 expense for a piano, which, on the surface, that looks a little maybe odd. But if that is a special needs student, I mean, you really need to dig deep and find out what exactly happen, because if that's a special need student, say maybe they're autistic, but music is how they got reached, and that's what they're into, and that's the level that they are with their music, that they needed something like that. Then if a parent decides that spending $4,000 is the right thing to do, the ESA program will allow that to happen. And that's the kind of freedom we have. But that parent, if that's a non-special needs learner, they only have 7,000. So if they decide to spend 4,000 of their $7,000 on a piano, that has to tell you how important it is. Or maybe they have the resources to pay for the other education out of their pocket. But the program allows that flexibility, and who best to determine the learner's needs than the parent. So, they also talked about, there was a hearing, an ad hoc hearing, the second one, which I think was a concession to the Democrats to, give them a hearing so that they could question things and get their news points and their talking points into the media. Because I went to the hearing, it was 2.5 hours. We taped, it's been taped, and it's on our website under the ESA programs in one of the forums. But one of our clients, Argo Prep, put it all together, summarized it, and then I put an index so you can just go right to whoever you want to see talking and do that. But if you sit there and watch the whole 2.5 hours, which I think a lot of these, like SOS and the teachers unions and the media, they don't think parents are, they think they're lazy, right? They think they're just going to get a 30-second soundbite and take that at its word, but you can't do anymore. If you watch that whole 2.5 hour hearing, you will see very plainly that an economist said the program cost half of what the school system the public school system charges to educate. There was somebody from the budget committee at JBC, something that is, he was very much a numbers guy, but he, of course, they're trying to walk the middle path. But when he was questioned, it was like, yeah, it costs half. And still, the Democratic talking points from the two representatives that were on the committee, they just hammered on the fact that they're just taking money away from public schools. And, it's not. Their focus is on people that were paying for private school out of their pockets all along. Even if they were wealthy, they are still paying school taxes, and they weren't getting the benefit of any of those taxes back. So now the ESA allows parents that if they go to private school and they maybe had STOs in the past, which are tax credits that you can accumulate, but if those aren't more than $7,000, the parents switched and went to the ESA money, which the point that I think SOS and the Democrats are trying to make in the media is that just took $7,000 out of the system. But the other side of that is there's no more tax credit. You either get one or the other. So that money's there somewhere. It might be in a different pot, and they keep wanting to talk about one pot, but there's multiple pots that fund this thing. So it's not as easy you cannot trust anybody, not even us. Like, you should go do your own homework, but we allow you to do that because we will post all of that kind of stuff on the website so parents can take the time to actually see the material. It's all there for them and make their own decision. But there's just a lot of mis and disinformation out there. And after what I saw in this hearing, I sat there for 2.5 hours. It was very obvious that the program has accountability, that the program is not going to bankrupt the system. And yet the media, Arizona Republic and Channel 15 again, they came out and just reiterated the talking points for the Democratic Party, and they reiterated SOS talking points, and they made it look like what Beth Lewis, who is the director of SOS in Arizona, what she was saying was factual when she's just making assertions which are totally false. And it's just a shame that people can't be honest. But when you don't have a good program that you're trying to advocate for, you can't tell the truth. You have to make up information that tries to make your point. But truth always wins in the end, and it'll be very interesting to see how this all plays out. But if you take the time to watch the hearing, and I have it in the ESA subforum, I have the hearing. You can watch the whole 2.5 hours, or you can skip around, and then I have links to the news reports, and you can click on them. And you guys tell me like what you think. You tell me if the media wasn't biased on that, if the media didn't bend the truth on that. It's terrible. It's a travesty. They're not doing their job. And it's a shame. Shame on them, right? Media, you're a news guy. You were taught, right? News, you have to be objective. Sorry, I'll quit
And,
talking so you
and
can
I
get a
think,
word in.
and I no, I think you're making all great points. And I think there was one really good point that I think is skimmed over so much of the time. And you did a, really good job, a beautiful job of making this analogy of basically where how the money flows. It's basically a square. It starts with the parents unenrolling their kids from public school. It goes to I believe it's to class wallet, to the vendors, class wallet, or to the I can't remember. What explain that real quick because
Yeah,
that's
so
a
let
good
me
analogy.
and this is another place that our website gets in the gap. And I should tell you, like my wife, who's one of our partners, our founding partners, and Tammy Johnson, who's been an ESA vendor since 2015, and she's actually trained my wife to become an ESA vendor. Both of them are former public school teachers. We love public schools. We want public schools to do better, and we fully believe that this ESA program will help public schools finally give them the forcing event that they need to break the shackles of the teachers unions, which they haven't done anything for teachers. They've done a lot for administration, but teachers are still very poorly paid. They have very poor work environments. Like my wife couldn't even go to the bathroom. Like there was nobody to give her a break to go to the bathroom. And that's a little thing, but I came from the private sector. If I told my employees that they couldn't go to the bathroom between 8 in the morning and noon because nobody could give them a break, they would run me out of the business on a rail. Like it's crazy. So the teachers union's not really for the teachers, they're for their agenda and things like that. And so this ESA program is an alternative, and people can set up their own teaching business, become a vendor. And how it works is you then perform tutoring service or teaching service or micro school or learning pod. You bill those parents. The parents have the contract with the state, with the ESA program at the Department of Education for Arizona. And so the relationship for the scholarship is the parent applies for it for their learner. They use their learner's name. They get the scholarship. So when the vendor gives the invoice to the parent has control. They approve it. They send it into the ESA program, who has, I mean, they are accountable. And John Ward and Christine Sabarcia are doing a heck of a job getting controls in place. And I mean, if it meets the program, it gets paid. If it doesn't get paid. And there is a lot of leeway and flexibility, because when you have special needs kids, you have to, they have different needs. Like something that looks ridiculous may be perfectly appropriate to be on an invoice for a special needs learner. So the ESA program approves it. They send it to Class Wallet, which is our third-party payer processor, which is by statute, that's required. And then the Class Wallet folks pay the vendor. So there's really no direct relationship between the vendor and the ESA program. The direct relationship there is with the parent, and then the other direct relationship with the ESA program is with Class Wallet. Class Wallet and the parent have the relationship with the vendor. So that's how it works. And there's little things like we tell vendors, like, hey, because the program has gone from 12,000 learners to over 70,000 in about a year. There were some shakeups and things happened at the ESA program office, which is all normal stuff when you have a brand new program. And we're tip of the spear in Arizona. We're the first ones, so we're figuring it all out. And make no mistake, I mean, the teachers unions are focused and honed on Arizona because they want to try to kill this program here so that it doesn't spread. There's like 12 other states that are enacting their own ESA program. They're all watching Arizona. So the stakes are quite high, and people are willing to be quite ruthless and lie. I mean, call it what it is, and lie to try to kill this program here. And one of the things I want parents to know is you can no longer put blinders on, put your kid on a school bus, think everything's okay, come home, ask them how their day went, accept it was okay as an answer, and move on. You have to get engaged and have to be involved, or you and your learner are going to get left behind. And one of the basic points I want to make is right now we have abortion. It's a huge topic throughout the country. And there's a referendum. They're trying to get abortion on a referendum. And trust me, the Democrats, because of that, they will get the vote out this year, November 2024. And Republicans, conservatives, if you will, people that want school choice, let's put it that way, they're typically busy, and they're working, they've got kids, they're trying to do the best, they're in Boy Scouts, they're in dance, their kids are in soccer, they're busy. I get it. But we can no longer be that busy. We have to pay attention, and we have to tell people about this ESA program. We have to grow it, let people know their options, because the media is not doing it. And there is some money with the ESA program to advertise, and you can see some advertisements now, but the word of mouth is going to be far more effective. Parents that are on ESAs that are loving it, they need to tell their friends, and people that hear this thing ESA, they need to ask questions. They can just Google ESA Connection or ESA, and we'll pop up, and they can learn all about ESAs. They can send us questions. We'll do the best we can to answer them. We're a pretty small staff, but we want people to at least have the knowledge and be able to pursue and find out which school option, public, charter, private, traditional homeschool, or ESA, which, is a lot of homeschool, but private education. Find out which one is best for your learner, pursue it. And if it's public school, there are great public schools. They're great charter schools here, but we have a unique opportunity that very few states have in this country to have these robust choices. And the ESA, universal ESA, is as flexible as it gets. And we only have a 1-seat majority in our legislature in Arizona. I mean, that means the Republicans who put this in and did this and drove this, there's only a 1-seat majority. And if the Democrats turn out the vote because of abortion or whatever, it's very possible that we'll lose this freedom. And so I just, I don't want to scare people. Get in the program. The more people are in it, I mean, with 70,000 people, it's going to be pretty hard to, for a Democrat, where if they're in a tight margin to not want to appeal to those parents. But let's take it off the table. Let's everybody get involved. Let's everybody talk about it and pursue it. We're also doing educational fairs, Josh, throughout the Valley. We're in Goodyear on January 27th. We're in Mesa Baptist Church on February 17th. We're at the Heart Center in North Phoenix. We're going to focus on special needs, but that's March 2nd. And we're putting one on in Tucson on April 20th, where vendors will come out. We'll have probably 50 or so of them. We'll have homeschool parents, experienced homeschool parents who new parents can visit with and try to figure out, okay, what am I in for? How do I navigate this? But, we want parents to come out and talk to vendors, find out what your options are, find out these wonderful enrichments that are out there. Even if you're in public school and you're not going to take funds, we have plenty of parents that just want their kids to learn how to, they want to learn life skills, like how to work on an automobile, or how to change light bulbs and fix things around the house, or sew, or financial management. I mean, there's a guy that does blacksmithing. If your learner thinks that might be of interest, he's a very bright. You wouldn't believe the math and the chemistry that goes into metalworking. I mean, it's amazing. But there's all these new things, and whether you're public school, charter, private, homeschool, or ESA, come check them out. So sorry, I'm a little bit passionate about this, Josh.
No, I can tell, and it's good. And I think you're right on the money with that. Arizona is sort of at the tip of the spear, because I mean, so many school choice advocates are pointing to it and going, it's happening. I mean, I see it all the time, and so much of the time, I myself, I looked into ESAs, and when I learned, what it really is, and it's not this welfare for the wealthy. It's not, it's not white flight. It's not racism. I mean, everybody says that these kids, even if these kids who are in private school are using it, I mean, the largest private school in Arizona, I think, is Arizona Christian or Gilbert Christian Schools, and they have like 2,000 students. Well, they're forgetting that, about 3,500 kids from Mesa Public Schools, they left this program, or they left the public schools, and now they're utilizing this program, and it's all the same. I mean, Scottsdale Unified and Deer Valley Unified, and even down in South Phoenix, which is notoriously it's a large minority community, and 10% of one of their school districts is utilizing this program. And these kids aren't, it's, as you said, the program is taking tax dollars that would be used, less tax dollars that would be used in the public schools, and giving it directly to the parents. And I think it's something that so often is overlooked by people that are reporting on this. What do you see?
Well, overlooked, or something a little bit more sinister maybe.
Yeah,
And
and what do you hope the future of this how could how could ESA Connections and other vendors, how do you think the state could improve on this program?
so couple of things. I want to back up and just talk a little bit more about the money side of it, because I want to clarify this. So their homeschool parents in the past, before universal ESA, they would have to pay their school taxes and pay to educate their own kids. And there's still a lot of them, 30% of, probably somewhere in that range, of the traditional homeschoolers are not taking ESA money because they just don't want to do that. They don't want any government interference. Like, that's just what they believe, and good on them. Like, that's fine, do that, right? But now parents are able to get ESA money. Well, the argument is that those parents, their kids were never getting paid before, so that's going to drain the school system. But the fallacy of that is, if I was a homeschool parent and if I was paying, my kid was, I signed the affidavit and took them out of public school. If the next year I put them in the public school, all of a sudden now it's going to cost $15,000 versus $7,000. And the school's not going to complain about that. They've got plenty of money when people want to go to public school, but it's just when they want other options. Take that private school, even if it was a very wealthy family, they're still paying taxes, and they're probably paying a lot of taxes because of the property taxes. They should get their $7,000. Like, that is the right thing to do. And the argument they're making is that, well, we weren't having to pay that before, now we're having to pay it. That's a burden on the students. But the other side of that is, when you now have 70,000 students, and everybody wants to know how many of them were in public school before, how many of them were these homeschool kids that we weren't having to pay anything, or these private school kids that we weren't having to pay anything. Well, the private school thing that's also misnomer, because most, if not all, of those kids have some kind of STO. So that, I already explained, that's just a wash. Like, that money is, if you take the ESA $7,000, you're not going to be able to do the tax credit. So the government's going to get that money back. The only argument you can make are those homeschool parents who were paying taxes and paying the bill to educate their kids. And how in the world can you look anybody in the face and say it's not right for us to now have to pay for them? That's ridiculous. And again, if that learner wanted to go to private or public school, they'd have no problem paying $15,000. They'd find it. The money's there. It's a great program. And the way they set it up, it's the ultimate in accountability. Don't for an instant let anybody tell you and you believe that the parents aren't accountable, because at the end of the day, even if they are a crappy parent, let's just say they're out there and they're just taking advantage of this, and the kids doing all the work around the house or whatever instead of going to school, who pays the ultimate price when that kid's playing video games and living in the basement when they're 40 years old? The parents have the ultimate accountability. They're far more accountable than a school bureaucracy and a school board. That is their child. They're accountable, and that's how the system is set up. So what I see for the future, and what I'd like to see school systems, like everybody. I just was on a conference call with some peers and other businesses today, and one of them, who's a doctor, a PhD, his deal is every kid should have an IEP, an individual education plan, and that is what I want to see. I want to see the school systems, who have now all these 5 different tools in their tool belt, right? Public, charter, private, homeschool, or ESA. I want the school system to evaluate each kid with the parents. Maybe they do an aptitude test, maybe, grade level, whatever, assessment. Are they vocationally inclined? Are they professionally inclined? Do they need to go to college? Do they need to go? I think the school system should say, look, it's their job to educate our kids to the best of their ability. They should evaluate those kids. And if an ESA is right, they should help set them up in an ESA. If private school's better, because, hey, we just don't offer that, this private school does, then help those kids get in there. But there's this infighting and there's these silos, and it needs to stop. Right now, it's not about the kids. It's about the teachers union and the power. It's about administration. It's about something else. If you're not for the ESA program, then you're not, in my opinion, you're not thinking about it right. Because if you truly think about how education should be, it should be, what is the right education for that student, and how can we make that happen? So I think you'll see tons of innovation. I think you'll see programs and enrichments that you just couldn't dream of. There's so many things. My wife taught third grade, and she'd have anywhere from 28 to 32 kids. And she would tell me, Chris, when I start teaching and she taught multiple classes. She never had time. She was never given time to plan during the school day. She always had to do it at night or on the weekends, but she would have to spend 30 to 40 minutes helping the 5 to 6 kids that had special needs, helping them get set. The kids that were gifted, the 5 or 6 kids that were gifted, she would say, you're just going to have to read. I'm not worried about you. Do it yourself. And then she'd spend 10 or 15 minutes with the core kids. And that's not how it should be. Those kids that can be, served well with an institutionalized model, they're going to continue to go to public school. But those brilliant gifted kids who were getting looked over because the parents didn't have time or the teachers didn't have time, they can go to there's some programs. There's one called Synthesis that Elon Musk's company put out, and look it up. It will blow your mind what these kids can do and how they can be challenged. And then all of the special needs programs that are out there, the things like that they make fun of, SOS makes fun of, like they're taking horseback riding lessons. Well, no, they're not horseback riding lessons. It's horse therapy. Because if you have a special needs, you go to a public school and get triggered, the last thing you're going to do is learn. You're just going to try to go into safety mode, right? Maslow's hierarchy. But, when you go, in D school, you get out of that situation and you go to a basically looks like a farm, and you can pet horses for a couple of weeks and ease, get safe, get in your safe zone. And then all of a sudden you start introducing math, like, hey, if we feed that horse 50 pounds a day and they poop half of it out, how much, poop do we have to pick up? I mean, now those kids are doing math, like, and I know that's a real basic example, but I mean, when you look at metalwork and welding and stuff, you can get trigonometry, geometry, like there is some incredible sophisticated math you can get into, angles. When you start talking about financial management and financial planning, it's all math. But if a learner, if that's their aptitude, if that's what they want, and you just guide them and let them kind of pick what they want and give them the tools they need, now they own their education. That's what micro schools are. You successful micro schools, maybe a dirty little secret is, if you're a public school teacher, you may not do very well in a micro school, because you're used to sitting up there and just, grinding information into kids, because that's what the institutional model is about. There's a gal who I just love dearly, Rochelle Noble. She's been a micro school teacher now as long as anybody, a pioneer, if you will, since 2018, 5 years. But she has a company called Micro School Solutions with some other folks. And she'll tell you, she has such a heart. I love her, but she'll tell you that the most important part of a successful micro school is the adult in the room. And that adult can only handle 8 to 10 to 12 kids, because they can only handle the amount of kids that they can actually teach individually. And that means sitting down with that learner, seeing what makes them tick, seeing what fires them up, and helping each one come up with their each individual plan, and then bringing them along together. So I know there's a big fear that all this big money's coming into this, and they're going to institutionalize, and they're going to take and make these, McDonald's type, educational franchises. Well, that may happen, and shame on the parents that fall for that, because it looks good or because it's franchised or whatever. Because what this movement is all about is getting an individualized education that is right for your learner. And if you don't take the time to get with somebody that is like a Rochelle, who is about guiding and letting that learner take more control of their education, then you're leaving money on the table, so to speak. Like, this is a fantastic movement, and I can't wait. The future looks bright, to answer your question, and it looks so much different than it has in the past. And hallelujah, bring it on.
I got a few minutes left here. And for those who don't know more about, or they have questions about your program, where can they find it? And could they log on for free and just to find
Yep.
out more about this?
Absolutely. So it's ESA Connection.com, not plural. So ESA Connection.com. There's 3 levels. There's 2 free levels. If you just sign in and you don't want to leave us your email address and get it validated, then you can just come in and audit, but you don't, it's not a very good experience. We want the parents to, it's free for parents. They can come in. All we do is validate your email. We want a little bit of information about you because you can rate and review people. You have impact over them. We need to know who you are. And if you're not going to let us validate your email, then we're not letting you into the community. Simple as that, because we have a responsibility to the other community members. So those are free. And for free, you can post and reply on all kinds of forums that are searchable. You can post news and educational events, even if you're a parent. If you see something that you want the other parents to know about, you can post it. You can search for vendors. Like I told you, you put your learners parameters in, you can come up with a list of vendors that meet those parameters and save them on your dashboard. And for vendors, they can do the free membership as well if they don't need to market to the community, if they just want to be involved in it. But if you're a vendor and you want to be in the database so parents can find you, that's a profile, which is also, you develop a mini ESA Connection website, which is great because if you're a small business, you don't have to pay for a website. You get it as part of your $20 a month, $25 a month subscription. You get to blog, you get to advertise. And, it's, to me, we are ESA vendors. I work with my wife in some learning pods. Like we polled and we did focus groups for parents and vendors. Like we think we got it pretty well set up, but we're always working off of feedback. So we think of feedback as a gift. And there's a need help button at the bottom right of every page. You click on that, it goes to our email box and give us your ideas. And I know we have less than a minute. So, but it's esaconnection.com.
Well, thank you very much. I'm sure people are going to look into it now and definitely just help this program grow even more and improve even more. But like I say, thank you for your time and best of luck with it.
Thanks, Josh. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Yep.